A very good day to Ms. Moon and my fellow classmates. This is a video presentation of our lesson plan for the subject TSL 520, Teaching English Through Drama. The dramatic technique that we have chosen to use in our lesson plan is poetry recitation. In this video, there are two presenters, which will be me, Hamiza binti Yahe, and my partner, Aina Balkis. This video will be divided into 4 parts, which are the lesson plan itself, the explanation of the activities used in the lesson, the explanation of the worksheet and the seating arrangements used in the lesson, and lastly, the summary. Now let's get into the first part of the video, which is the lesson plan. This lesson plan is targeted for Form 4 students, and the skills that we're focusing on is literature in action. The theme is health and environment, and the topic we have chosen is the poem My Kind of School by Raymond Tisetesky from the literature component textbook. The main focus is literature in action, and the complementary skill is speaking. For this lesson, the content standard is for the students to engage with, respond to, and interpret a variety of literary text types, while the learning standard is for the students to explain briefly the feelings and opinions a text provokes in them. From the content and learning standards, we constructed 3 learning objectives. As you can see on the slides, at the end of the lesson, students should be able to draw a picture and write a poem with the title Our Dream School to correspond with the poem taught during the lesson. Students should also be able to recite the poem as a group with suitable facial expressions and intonation to other students in a gallery walk. And lastly, students should also be able to write feedback and give meaningful suggestions among themselves. Now let's talk about the lesson. During the pre-lesson, the teacher will write the title of the poem, My Kind of School, on the board and starts a discussion. The teacher will ask a series of questions regarding the title as a prompt for the students, such as, can you describe your school? Do you think all schools look the same? And etc. And then, moving on to the lesson development, during the presentation portion, the teacher will ask the students to sit in a circle, and we call this a bonfire circle, and the teacher will start reciting the poem aloud to the students with proper intonation and facial expressions, and the students will follow along. Sitting in a circle will allow the students to look at the teacher and their friends, giving them a chance to not only learn from the teacher, but also from their friends. In the activity portion, there will be a group activity called Our Dream School, where they have to draw and write a poem about their dream school. After that, they will recite the poem and show their drawings to their classmates in a gallery walk, and after each visit, they will have to write feedbacks to their friends through a feedback form. Lastly, during the post-lesson, the teacher will distribute a worksheet to the students where they can share their understanding and opinions regarding the poem taught during the lesson. The teacher will also share life lessons about education and school to clarify why the poem is important. For the differentiation strategies, the teacher will differentiate the students by the type and amount of support provided. For the weak students, the teacher will give a lot of guidance throughout the task, and for the moderate students, the teacher will guide when the students ask for help. And for the advanced students, the teacher will allow them to try the task by themselves. So for the task or the activities carried out in this lesson, it will be further explained in the second part of our video.
The next part of our video is the explanation on the activities that we are going to conduct. But before that, for pre-lesson, there's a little discussion before going into the bonfire discussion and the gallery walk. During pre-lesson, the teacher enters the class and greets the students. The teacher writes My Kind of School on the board and starts a discussion. Some of the questions that are asked to the students are, can you describe your school? Do you think all schools look the same? Have you been to other schools? Is it different from your school? What is your favorite thing in your school? So this kind of question serves as a warm-up before going deeper into the poem. As you can see, My Kind of School is actually the title of the poem, and this is how the teacher will introduce the poem to the students. Next, the bonfire discussion. Now, for the bonfire discussion, teacher starts a bonfire discussion and students are required to sit in a circle with the teacher. The teacher tells the students there is a poem with the title My Kind of School, just like in the pre-lesson, and reads the poem aloud to the students with the right expression and intonation. Teacher then instructs students to silently read the poem for 2 minutes. Next, teacher asks students to stand up and follow the teacher's actions and intonation. After that, students read the poem aloud in choral with the teacher. Teacher explains the meaning of the poem to the students and puts emphasis on the imagery presented in the poem. Here, the teacher may use musical instruments or audio related to nature or audio related to campfire or bonfires in delivering the meaning of the poem. This could help imitate the bonfire mood. And lastly, after explaining the poem, the teacher describes her school experience as a child and uses a lot of imagery and descriptive words to deliver the story. After saying how to carry out bonfire discussion, let's discuss why and what is actually a bonfire discussion. A bonfire discussion is a setup where both the students and the teacher sits in a circle facing each other. According to the Student Conservation Association (SCA), there is something special about bonfires. It draws us in with its magic and heat, encouraging conversation, music, and intimacy. Now, this is why bonfire discussion is very great for sharing sessions because of its setup. Now we'll go in deeper on the activities that are conducted during the bonfire discussion. During the discussion, the teacher will read the poem aloud with the correct tone and facial expression. Here, the teacher must recite the poem passionately in order to inspire the students. Now, according to Sith Param 2001, the teacher should perform the first reading before asking students to recite the poem aloud. This is because when the teacher reads it first, it gives a little idea for the students on how to read it after her. Next, after that, the teacher will ask the students to read the poem silently. It is also important for the students to read the poem on their own pace so that they are familiar with the words before choral dramatization. After the students have read the poem silently, they will now carry an activity called guided choral dramatization and act it out. In this activity, the teacher will instruct the students to stand up and act out the poem with the teacher while reciting it loudly. The students will mirror the teacher's action while reciting the poem. This activity is great in emphasizing the imageries that are present in the poem. So, what are the advantages of guided choral dramatization and act it out? So, the first one is since this activity is guided, students will be more grounded and confident to carry out independent activities later on. Now they have a rough idea of how to recite a poem and they will be confident to apply what they have learned during the bonfire discussion on other activities during group work or during the gallery walk. Next, this activity is suitable for all levels of students, either they are proficient or beginners, as it is guided by the teacher. The next one, this kind of activity is amazing for kinesthetic learners as there are a lot of movements involved. And lastly, activities like this lifts up the mood in the class and loosen up everybody's to make sure that everybody is comfortable enough to recite the poem among each other. It is important to start a fun activity straight off the bat because it helps get and hold the attentions of the students better.
Next, the activity carried out in this lesson is a group work where they have to write a poem titled Our Dream School. In this activity, the students are divided into 4 groups, and in each group, there will be students with different proficiency levels. For this activity, they are required to visualize and turn their dream school into a drawing. They have to brainstorm and think about how they want their dream school to look like, and after that, they have to write a poem consisting of 6 lines describing their dream school using the drawing they have produced. In this poem, the students have to include imagery, and the teacher will help and give them examples of imagery that they can use in their poems. The students are given exactly 25 minutes to finish the task, and the final product of their work will be showcased on a mahjong paper, and they have to recite the poem as a group during the gallery walk. Why start with drawing instead of just writing right away? Poetry writing can be a daunting and challenging task for the students, so drawing together can be a warm-up activity for them before they get started with writing. They can use their imagination and put it into their drawings, and this will help them come up with the imagery or the descriptions that they can use in their poem. It can also inspire and attract reluctant students who have a difficult time writing. Aside from that, it will be more motivating for them to write a poem if the drawing is something of their own creation. This activity is done in a group work to promote collaborative learning among the students. Because they have to write a poem, which can be a challenging task, working together can minimize the pressure because they don't have to work alone. They can share ideas, question each other, defend their ideas, and then form a comprehensive concept after discussing, while doing all that in a non-threatening atmosphere. So reciting the poem as a group will also be much more meaningful because it is a product of their own thoughts and ideas. Apart from that, working together will give them an opportunity to learn from each other while boosting their confidence and self-esteem. After the group work, a gallery walk will be carried out. Every group will be assigned a wall for them to display their final product, and they will take turn to visit other groups in every station to look at their friends' work. We chose to do gallery walk instead of a normal presentation style because it encourages movement around the classroom as the students have to move from station to station to see their friends' work. Therefore, it is much more engaging as it increases active communication among the students because they're able to look closely at the works of their classmates and enables them to ask questions instead of just sitting down and listening. During the gallery walk, the students are required to recite their poem as a group with suitable facial expressions and intonation. This can also be called a choral dramatization. So 2 to 3 students will stay at their station to recite their poems and show their drawings while the others will go around visiting other groups. Each groups will be given 3 feedback forms for each of the group that they visit, where they can give opinions, ask questions, give suggestions, and also rate their friends' work. You can see the example of the form on the slides. We call this a peer review tag, where the students are allowed a medium to express their thoughts regarding other people's work. So the dramatic technique, which is poetry recitation, has been implemented in the gallery walk portion of our lesson. Poetry recitation is a useful technique for teaching and learning because it improves the students' literacy skills. Writing and reciting their own poem will encourage them to find ways to express their message better, whether in the choice of words or expressions and gestures that they think will fit the words. This process helps them to become aware of the sound of language and the relationship between letters and sounds. When the students recite their poem, their friends will listen to the sound of words, make connections to the gestures and facial expressions, and start making sense of the message portrayed in the poem. Therefore, it can also improve information processing skills because it involves reading it aloud and listening. It also helps with comprehension because they're learning new vocabulary or using the ones they already know to understand the poem. Lastly, since this is a choral dramatization, it can help increase students' level of confidence. Since they understand what they are reciting, they perform it to their friends without the fear of misinterpreting the poem. This reduces their anxiety because they can ask each other questions when there are any uncertainties and also rely on each other when reciting the poem to their friends.
The third part of our video is the explanation on the worksheet and seating arrangements. So, the worksheet. This worksheet consists of 5 questions. It serves as a study wrap-up to help the students recap what they had learned during the lesson. And the questions asked are mostly centered on asking for the students' opinion and input from the poem that was introduced. The first question, what is school to you? Do you think the persona school is similar to the school that you attend every day? How is the persona school different from yours? Would you attend the school described in the poem? Do you think that the school described in the poem is unique? Looking back at this question, they really ask for the students' opinion, and these type of questions help the students to reflect back on what the poem had mentioned and to make comparison to their own reality. It is important to give this worksheet for the students as a wrap-up to give them more time for them to answer so that they could come up with a lengthier explanation based on what they think and what are their opinions on the poem. Sitting arrangement for bonfire discussion. A bonfire discussion is a setup where both the students and the teachers sit in a circle facing each other, just like the pictures that I have just shown. During the discussion, everyone is facing each other, which enables them to see and interact with their friends better. Aside from that, everyone has an unobstructed view of the teacher, since they need to carry out a guided choral dramatization and act it out. They need to see the teacher clearly, and also being able to see their friends is a really good motivation for them to keep the activity going. However, this sitting arrangement is not suitable for task-based activities. For example, if the teacher were to hand out the worksheet, it is not suitable for the students to sit in the bonfire discussion sitting setup, because there will be a lot of disruptive behavior, because it's easier for them to talk to their friends. So for the seating arrangement for gallery walk, which I have just shown before, okay, the students display their work on each corner of the classroom. They will move to each station in a clockwise rotation, just like in the picture. 2 to 3 students will stay and recite their poem and take turns. Gallery walk is much more engaging as it increases the possibility of active communication among the students. It is also encourages movement around the classroom when groups move from station to station, as opposed to being seated while listening to traditional group presentation. This is roughly how it will look like at the end of the gallery walk when everyone have pasted their feedback form. So each group will give a feedback form in each station. The teacher also will give one group one feedback, and by the end of the gallery walk, each group will receive a total of 4 feedback form. And for the summary, we hope this lesson plan could be of use for future teachers out there. The shift from normal traditional classroom to a modern one is certainly not an easy task, but we need to try and move forward. With every fresh ideas and great execution, the education quality in Malaysia will increase. We hope that our video could help in reaching that goal. Thank you.